Today is Maundy, Thursday, the night in which Jesus instituted the Lord's Supper and washed the disciples' feet. Tomorrow's Good Friday, and this coming Sunday is Easter. So today I want to talk a little bit about this Easter and the Easter celebration and why we do it and when we do it and some of the traditions that developed and some different things like that. So in 312 AD, Constantine, the Roman emperor, converted to Christianity and immediately made Christianity the official religion of the Roman Empire. Now, this is significant because until this point, Christianity had been illegal in many places. It was persecuted. They were hated in many places. And now suddenly, it's the official religion. It's like, boom, overnight. And so up until that point, there were no real holidays that were celebrated by Christians. And so, because it's kind of hard to celebrate a holiday when you're a persecuted minority and you've seen many of your beloved ones executed. So it's kind of hard to have an official holiday when you're not even recognized officially as an approved religion by the Roman Empire. So now here we are, suddenly it's the official religion and there are no holy days. So what they did was they took a lot of the pagan festivals and just reinvented them or replaced them with a Christian version. The decision to celebrate Easter, the resurrection of Jesus, was that it would be done on the first Sunday after the first full moon, after the vernal equinox, after the spring equinox. And so that's why Easter moves around every year, because it depends on when that equinox is and then when the next full moon is, and then it's the first Sunday after that. So that was the decision that was made, and that's been followed through now for, 1,700 years. So that's why we celebrate it when we do. It was originally a pagan holiday like Christmas and all the rest of them, and they just ditched the pagan deity and all and just replaced that day with some reason to celebrate a Christian holiday, which is fine. Nothing wrong with that. But where does the word Easter itself come from? If you Google it, you'll discover 3 or 4 different ones. Probably it comes from German. It's either some kind of from Saxony or it's from England. There's some questions whether the exact origin, but probably comes from a German for the goddess of the spring. And so the spring goddess is when the world comes back to life. As you know, things start to grow again and the flowers bloom and all of that. And so spring has been celebrated really around the world throughout history as a time of rebirth and renewal and the coming back of life and all of that sort of thing. And so it would naturally be connected with Jesus coming back to life. And so that's where all of that comes from. Now, what about Easter bunnies? They certainly are not found in the Bible. That's for sure. So where did that tradition come from? Probably from the German Teutons, who in the spring celebrated fertility because everybody in the world was agricultural until the Industrial Revolution. And so rabbits are pretty fertile. And so it probably that's where it came from. And they had tails of these rabbits that would hide brightly colored eggs, which again are a symbol of fertility. Brightly colored eggs for children to find. So that's where Easter eggs come from, is the bunnies hiding them, because bunnies are mammals. They don't lay eggs. They give live birth to their young. But that's where we get the word Easter. That's why we celebrate it when we do. That's where the Easter bunny comes from. That's where the Easter eggs come from. A lot of that's just pagan stuff, even though most people don't connect it with fertility rites or anything like that anymore. It's just the fun thing that the family does. They just hunt Easter eggs. So that's fine. I'm not one of these who believes that the origin of something determines something. I believe the way we use it now is what really matters. I mean, sometimes the origins are interesting, but I don't believe that going and buying some plastic eggs or hard-boiling some eggs and painting them yourselves and hiding for your kids to find is somehow opening them up to the demonic realm, because we're not communicating any kind of pagan religious practice at all when we do that, any more than having a Christmas tree is a symbol of fertility or everlasting life because it's an evergreen. It's just our house, it's a plastic tree, and it's already pre-lit. I just set the thing up and we plug it in and we're good to go. It's a place for us to put the presents under and to decorate. It's a decorative piece, and that's it. So, but that's where the eggs and the bunnies come from. Now, it's interesting that in the Bible, the word Easter does not occur unless you're using the King James Version. In the King James Version, in Acts chapter 12 and verse 4, the Bible uses the word Easter one time. And actually, it should be translated Passover, and that's how all new modern translations translate it. It is Passover. And the reason why the King James translate that way, and the reason that they understood Passover as Easter, is because traditionally Easter and Passover were connected to each other in terms of maybe not being at the same time, but in terms of what happens. So Passover is important because Jesus, today, on Maundy Thursday, it was a Passover when Jesus celebrated or instituted the Lord's Supper. So he took the Passover, reinterpreted it as what we now know as communion or the Lord's Supper. And so the Passover, Jesus died like the day after the Passover. The Passover's actually died on Passover because sundown would have started the Friday. So Jesus, because they calculated it differently, sundown starts Friday, sundown Thursday, because sundown Friday ends the day. That's why they had to try to get Jesus in the ground before then, because of the Sabbath. So Passover and the Sabbath coming right there together. And so Passover is important, and because we recognize that Jesus is our true Passover lamb. And so that's why Easter was connected with Passover. So that's just kind of some of the background of where some of this stuff comes from, why we think of Jesus as the Passover lamb, because he is, and that was when he instituted the Lord's Supper and all that. This is my body and blood. This is when we celebrate Easter. Why? The first Sunday after the first full moon, after the vernal equinox. This is where the word comes from. It's German, and the German traditions of the rabbits and the eggs and all that other sort of thing. But I want to say this about Easter. Easter is a great time of celebration. We celebrate the resurrection of Jesus, walking out of the tomb on the third day and all of that. But I want you to remember that there's no resurrection if there's no death. Easter requires Good Friday. Jesus can't rise from the dead unless he is dead. And so, the resurrection, as great as it is, must be predicated by the death of Jesus. Jesus died for our sins to pay the penalty for our sins. We know that God has accepted his sacrifice because Jesus rose again the third day. Jesus defeated sin on Friday at the cross. He defeated death at the empty tomb on Sunday morning. But when we celebrate Easter, we need to remember that the resurrection can only happen if first there was a death. And so both of them are linked together and are vitally important, and really can't separate them out. They're like two sides of the same coin. If Jesus dies but doesn't rise again, we have no hope. Jesus can't rise again unless he's died. And so we have salvation and hope all tied together there in the death and resurrection of Jesus. So I hope that tomorrow you will reflect on the death of Jesus and then celebrate on Sunday that horrible tragedy of death that you and I will face as well has been defeated and overcome by Jesus Christ, who died for us on Friday and rose for us on Sunday. So, man, may God bless you, and I hope you have a wonderful Maundy Thursday today, a reflective Good Friday tomorrow, and a great celebration on Sunday morning as we think about the resurrection of Jesus Christ.